Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another one of our Fatherhood Series sessions. I have Guillermo Trejo. Welcome back, Guillermo.
Thank you. Good to be back.
All right. So, as usual, our Thursday evening session with our compadre and compadre um, family strengthening program. And there will be here again for another three more sessions that we have. We've done a total of seven. We will be doing a total of seven. And it's always good to, again, always be providing this information and having these discussions with our community. As usual, thank you, everybody, for always your continuous support. My name is Ernesto Olivo, and I'm the social media and art and activities coordinator at the Children's Shelter. And yeah, it's always good to have our family strengthening programs come on and talk a little bit about the work that they do, the importance of the work that they do in our community. And again, as always, we're very grateful to have them on here to share this information. So we'll start off with our session. Do you want to talk a little bit about this evening's session, Guillermo?
Sure. My name is Guillermo Trejo. I'm lead mentor coordinator for Compadre Mentor Program, a program of the Strengthening Family Department. And it's great to be here. And today we're actually going to be diving into the topic of, in this fatherhood series, Father with Guidance, father and spouse, and specifically co-parenting and divorce, which has been a very sensitive topic and a very relevant topic today. So in essence, what is co-parenting? When you hear the word co-parenting, basically, it's the quality relationship between co-parents. In other words, they can have a strong influence on their children. This is what happens when parents who decided to go their separate ways and are not going to have a relationship. Rather, they decide to not to be married. We're no longer going to live together, boyfriend and girlfriend, but we did have a child. So when we co-parent, it takes on a different perspective. So basically, co-parenting is like a joint custody arrangement. So what they do is they decide we are not going to have a relationship. We're not going to live together, but we are still going to be parents of the child that we have. Rather be one child or three children or how many children they have. So um, basically, co-parenting is also we have to make shared decisions. We have to be interacting with each other, drop offs, or just speaking in person, or even sometimes it may seem impossible. But co-parenting takes a whole new dynamic. So, in essence, um, how do we make co-parenting work? Which is a very important topic. So, the key to success and to making co-parenting work is to try to understand that this is a new relationship. And even in essence, we're no longer personally involved, emotionally involved. We're no longer having a personal relationship, but now we need to understand co-parenting is now more of, in essence, a business relationship. So what do they mean by business relationship? So now the key to success for co-parenting means separating the personal relationship from your ex, now forming the co-parenting relationship. So it also may be helpful to start thinking the relationship as this is now a completely new relationship. This is not a continuation of the old. So this one is entirely about the well-being of your children, and it's not anymore. It's not about you. It's not about her. It's not about him. It's not about us. So even though your relationship may be over, the family is not over. So acting on the child's best interest is what's the most important priority. So the first step in being a mature, responsible co-parent is always put your children's needs ahead of your own.
That's really
So
great. I think, I'm sorry for interrupting, but
no,
for
go
those
ahead.
of you out there who are tuning in, remember we do have our chat box. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in, and we'll do our best to get you an answer. And whenever you're ready, just let me know so I can get your presentation going, Guillermo.
Oh, thank you. Yes, let's go ahead and start.
Okay.
So what does it have the benefits in creating the relationship that works? So how do we create that relationship that works is first understanding this is a new relationship. Now let's think of this new relationship not as an intimate relationship, but now we are business partners. And the benefits of having this new business-like relationship, the kids will recognize that it's more important to work things out despite the ending of the relationship. So we understand that the love for the children will prevail despite the changing circumstances. And also, the children will begin to understand that if, when they see these parents working at this relationship out, they feel secure despite the separation, the change in the relationship, the change in the way they live, how they view their life. They feel secure. The children will also benefit from the co-parenting being created. It benefit from the consistency. Co-parenting, they can foster similar rules, discipline, rewards in the household, so children know what to expect and what to expect from them. So when they form this new co-parenting relationship, children will have a better understanding of problem solving because children will see their parents' co-parenting relationship and when they work together and how effectively they work together, it will give children permission to resolve problems themselves and more peacefully. They have a healthy example to follow. So by cooperating, these co-parenting, they establish what we call a life pattern, a life pattern that's predictable. So these children will be able to carry into their future, even to their future relationships. Hey, during a conflict, it is possible to work things out. And one of the most important part of the component in creating a co-parenting relationship that works is, of course, this is easier said than done, but by doing it will be a lot easier than if not, is we need to set aside the pain and animosity aside from this relationship that just ended. So successful co-parenting means that our own emotions, our anger, our resentment, our hurt must now take a back seat, and the needs of our children need to be in the forefront. So what is the goal? The goal is our children come first. The needs of our children come first. So how do we do this? We need to establish the rules and the boundaries. So in other words, our feelings. It's okay that we're still hurting, we're angry. Our feelings right now are not being validated, whatever the case may be. But our intention is our children need to come first. So as a co-parent, we never vent to our child. We have to put our feelings in aside. And one of the things is unfortunately what happens is parents start venting to the child. They start seeing their children as therapists, so to speak, and they need to have their child listen to what's going on. So we never want to put our negative feelings off our chest onto our child. We need to go ahead and separate that. Another one is we encourage the teamwork is by the teamwork of the co-parent is stay focused. Okay. If we feel angry, we feel resentful, we try to remember that we act with purpose, we act with grace, because our child's best interest is what is at stake, not our relationship, not how I feel. It's our children that come first. So then, therefore, um, we never use children as a messenger. Hey, well, you need to tell your dad this and this, and you need to tell your mom this. So when we use children to convey messages, when we co-parent, it puts them in the center of conflict. So we need to discourage that behavior. The goal is to keep your child out of the relationship issues. And so therefore, that's why it's important that we discourage that behavior and we focus on, hey, if I need to talk to your dad, I will talk to your dad through text, email. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we need to understand the consequence of putting our children in the center of that relationship, because in the consequence, who gets hurt the most is our children. So, but there are ways that we can help set aside our pain and animosity and making this team is by understanding, improving our communication with our co-parent, our ex-spouse takes on a whole different form. So in other words, peace, consistent and personal communication with your ex is essential to the success of co-parenting. So we need to be consistent. The communication needs to be with purpose. So it all begins with your mindset. Think about the communication with your ex as having the highest purpose is your children's well-being. So we need to be aware that, hey, when we communicate with the essence of our children, and it's the purpose of our children. So what are some communication methods? An example is set a business like tone. Hey, when we were together, we were talking about this discipline. We're talking about this is what we want to do for how we raise our child. But now, because we're co-parenting, we need to now approach this for more a business-like tone. In other words, how am I going to conduct myself in a business meeting? Is how we want to conduct ourselves. So, in a business meeting, so business partnership. So we speak it right with our as we would with our colleagues, respectfully, cordially, neutral, and relaxed, and we try to make sure that we understand our messages. So, and instead of making demands, one way improving our communication is instead of demands, we make requests. Instead of making a request, um, has a much more softer tone because when we make a statement of demands, it can be misrepresented, and we want to try refraining from making a demand. And making a request would be like, "Would you be willing to?" Or "Can we try this?" Instead of, "Well, if you do this, then I'm going to do this. Well, if you're not going to do this, then I'm not going to do that." And so, and part of making that request, setting that business tone is we just need to listen. But oftentimes, listening is often misunderstood as I need to be submissive. Listening does not mean submissive. It means, regardless if you agree or disagree, you understand that the purpose of the other co-parent is in the best interest of your child, and that you have the best interest. So, in other times when we're having this communication with our co-parent, our ex-spouse, um, we get flustered. We get flustered because we're trying to see, are they really trying to get at me, or is this really talking about our children? So we need to show some type of restraint. And what is restraint is we need to keep in mind that communicating with one another is necessary for the children and the entire life of the child. So if not longer, we can train ourselves not to overreact. So that's what restrain means: not to overreact, not to react out of a quick reaction. And we're like, okay, let me listen. What's going on? What's going on with myself? What's going on with my other co-parent, my ex? Because trying to understand the communication. So, an example, one thing that we teach our gentlemen is understanding when your ex comes to you, who is talking to you. If your ex says, "Hey, well, you did this, you did that, and you did this to me," okay, she's not talking to you, are talking to your ex. When she says in terms of, "Hey, well, when I was little, I did this. When I was little, I did that. So we need to do it like this." Okay, well, right now, your ex is not your ex. That's the little girl talking. But when she talks to about the children, "Hey, the children needs this. This is what they need. We need to do this." Okay, that's not your ex talking. That's not the little girl talking. That's the mother of your children talking. And that's who we want to speak to. So we need to keep the conversation child focused and
That's
never let it.
great.
Yes, because we never let
Great.
a decision with the ex to disagree into a conversation about your needs or their needs. It should always be about the needs of the child. So, and continuation of co-parenting, we got to think of this as a new team. This is a new team, and parenting is full of decisions. And when we have to make this with our now ex, whether you like each other or not, cooperating and communicating without blowing up, bickering, making decisions out of impulse would be far easier for everyone. So the aim of co-parenting of this new team is, like we talked earlier, the rules of the household. And we have to understand, even though we may have rules for different households, the rules, regardless, the end result is what's in the best interest of the child. Discipline, okay? Part of the aim of creating this new team as co-parenting is we need to try to follow uh, the similar guidelines of the consequence. So for broken rules, even infractions, um, when we try to change the discipline to get at the other co-parent, hey, well, they don't like they never like the children staying up late, so I'm going to have the children stay up late. So now when it's the other co-parent, they get the child now really tired, really sleepy. So we need to stay similar in discipline and scheduling. We'll talk a little bit more about the scheduling. The scheduling um, is one thing that's going to be consistent for the child. And when we have consistency in scheduling with the child, that is known as security for the child. So making meals, homework, bedtimes can go a long way if the co-parents adjust and try to make it similar for the child. Remember, we need to stay away from the mindset, oh, you're trying to tell me what to do, you're still trying to control me. No, this is about our child and keeping a consistent schedule. So, and part of making this new team is making some important decisions. So, major decisions when it comes to that need to be need to be made by both co-parents. So, being honest, being open, and straightforward, especially when it comes to big decisions. And what do these big decisions consist of? One thing, first and foremost, medical. With the doctor, hey, doctor, I don't need you to sugarcoat what's going on. You need to tell me straightforward what is going on. When it comes to education, if the child needs change of classroom, change of higher level courses, curricular activities, parent teacher conference, even sporting events, extracurricular activities. Another big one, financial issues. So the cost of maintaining two separate households can put a strain on both co-parents. So we need to set a realistic budget, not you're going to pay for this and that's it. I don't care. I'm going to pay for that. We need to keep accurate records for shared expenses. Okay. So we need to be gracious enough to see and provide the opportunities for the children that they cannot provide this for themselves. So it's very important. One thing that we talk about, respect goes a long way. Okay. Respect doesn't mean you tolerate negativity. Respect means it's the mother of my child, it's the father of my child. So respect now takes a different perspective. What is respect? Now it's about being respectful of our time, being respectful of our schedule, being respectful of our work schedule, and the other things that we also have to do. And don't sweat the small stuff. Little bitty things that, for some odd reason, is going to make it a little more agitating for us. And some of the things, compromise. Compromise doesn't necessarily have to mean you give up something. Compromise can be, hey, if you're looking for a babysitter, when you have our children and you need a babysitter for emergency purposes, I get it about the babysitter, but why not try calling me first to see if I can babysit? That way it'll bring both down our costs and the other parent gets to spend a little more time with the children than normal.
Yes, and I
So,
think we had somebody on the comment box mention boundaries are crucial. Thank you, Robert, for joining our conversation. Um,
yes,
the boundaries, along with what you just said, the compromise is, in any relationship. I mean, obviously, we're talking specifically about this topic, but compromise and then the respect, boundaries, compromise, and respect are key and crucial.
yes. And part of what is very highly tied into integrated with respect is understanding how making transitions and visitations, both co-parents can make it uncomplicated. Um, so the actual move from one household to another, whether it happens every few days, weekends, months, weekly, um, a reunion, a separation from one parent. So while transitions are unavoidable, a lot of times there may be things we can do to help it make it easier for the child, because we also know that if we make it easier for the child, it also can be easier for the parents. So helping the children anticipate change, helping the new co-parents, each other understanding, anticipate change. So we remind each other that we're going to be leaving for the other parent's household in a day or two before the visit. Hey, let's get ready for this. Pack in advance, prepare for advance, help children pack their bags, school bags, whatever the case, their favorite snacks. Encourage packing familiar reminders like a special stuffed toy, a photograph, and always when we drop off, it's a good idea for co-parents to understand a neutral zone in picking up and dropping off. Because what we find out is if we drop off at the other parent's household instead, sometimes, and this is part of the process, this is normal, unfortunately, is it can maybe ignite a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of resentment. Hey, you reminded me of this. Why are you, when you wore that, you did this. And so it's better it can be also better for the children when we have a neutral place. But for some co-parents, it works best if they just pick each other up, drop the child off at the house. So uh, it also depends. So making visitations uncomplicated for both the child and the parents. Um, and reminding each other, hey, ahead of time, hey, I'm going to go ahead and drop off the child, or even being open to say, hey, I'm not at the house right now. Can you meet me at the supermarket? That's where I'm at getting groceries for our children. And okay, I'll drop off the child, over to the grocery store. We'll go in. I'll find you, drop them off, and that may be the case. So it's very, very important about making those transitions. And also, when we go for those transitions, sometimes we just need to go with the flow. Okay, whatever we protected for the reason or not, going with the flow. Things happen, things change, things come up, and both co-parents need to be aware. Sometimes things that were unscheduled do come up, and it's not because they're late and they're trying to make me upset because they're late. They know I got other stuff to do. Things do come up, and that goes back tying into the simple communication that is necessary to understand, hey, understanding things are going to change. Things are not as going to go always planned. So sometimes I need to just go with the flow. And sometimes we need to find the root cause of what's going on. And sometimes it's not the co-parent, it's actually the child. The child, for some reason, needed a change. They were hungry, they got sick, they needed to go to the bathroom. So sometimes it's what's going on. It could be also not that they're trying to make me upset. Sometimes my child needed that extra attention. So making transitions and making visitations is just like co-parenting, but with the mentality of when you're in kindergarten. When you let kindergarten children know in advance and keep reminding, it makes everything go a lot smoother.
That's great. Wow.
So also understanding co-parenting may take a whole different life of its own. The co-parenting, we talked about what co-parenting is. It's when two people are not necessarily together anymore in an intimate relationship, but their family, like I said, doesn't stop. It keeps going on. So the children can go between homes. The parents attend school functions. At the same time, they may compare notes on a regular basis. They interact cordially. Uh, they can resolve conflict. Um, when things arise, if it's not done properly, the children will continue to do their best. So they always in other words, tension is kept to a minimum. But what is parallel parenting? There's a difference between co-parenting versus parallel parenting. And in whatever category we fall into, that's okay. But being aware of it and being accepting, okay, well, I'm in this co-parenting. My other significant other who I'm no longer with is in parallel parenting. So what is parallel? In other words, parallel parenting are for those parents that may or may not be able to have custody, shared custody, but they cannot interact or problem solve. So these parents keep everything completely separate. They're like, I no longer want to speak to you. You're not going to speak to me. Our relationship is over. So the minimum I have to interact with you, the better. We're not going to attend the same school functions. We're not going to attend the same doctor's appointments because the reason why is unfortunately when they do see each other, it just huge conflict arises. And it can be emotionally damaging, detrimental to the child, emotionally detrimental to them. So they try to establish more of a primary parent. But communication is going to be more of non personal, it's going to be strictly business. And that's why now, today, with technology, we have a lot of parents that are in parallel parenting instead of co parenting. They use an app in order to make those communications. And this app is recorded and it goes directly to the court and goes directly to the lawyers. So parents never use their children as messengers to communicate back and forth. There are no changes to schedule without making a written agreement in advance. There's no personal information shared between them, and they try to minimize conflict and schedules and shared schedules to avoid that conflict. So when both parents understand, you know what, you and I, we just cannot have any interaction because it arises too many wounds, it arises too many past experiences. So for now, we're both going to do the parallel parenting. We will only communicate through legal means, an app, through court, through our lawyer. But we're still going to be parenting and be fully present with our children. Our children are our first priority. And there have been cases where parents start as parallel parenting and they move into co-parenting because and time has passed where both parents have dealt with their issues, and now they'll be able to be cordial. And one case in point, I'll be transparent. My parents, when they got a divorce after 23 years, they could not speak to each other for over 15 years. And after 15 years, they can now sit down and actually laugh at what happened. And all they talk about now is their children and grandchildren. And they show tremendous amount of respect for each other. And that's the only time that they see each other is when we have family functions. But both my mother and father are absolutely respectful to each other. And now they focus on being grandparents and talk about their kids, us. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Well, this has been great. Um, so, if anybody was interested in this, and so something I didn't get a chance to talk about earlier, that our Compadre program, do you want to just give us in a nutshell um, about the length and if someone's interested in this program, how can somebody be a part of this and look for this information and these resources?
yes, yes. As a matter of fact, they'll be able to go to the Children's Shelter's website and look up the Family Strengthening Department, and we'll have Compadre. Or, as you can see, any information about our fatherhood services, you can contact Daisy Garcia through our email. Her email is dcgarcia at chshel.org, or her number at 212-252-2559. You can let her know that you're interested. She's got the dates that we're going to start. And it's our 15 sessions. It's right now it's on virtual for about an hour. When hopefully we come back from classroom, it's about 2 hours. But we use a curriculum called the Nurturing Fathers curriculum by Mark Proman, which is evidence based, and we talk about how fatherhood is from all the way from conception to death and how fatherhood evolves. We talk about discipline versus punishment, which we talked about last time. We talk about a topic of this topic is co-parenting, divorce. We also talk about the little boy within, the roots of our fatherhood. We talk about violence, fathering without violence, healing the father wound. We also talk about importance, the very important dynamic of the true meaning of what it is to actually play with your children and what it does for their development. We talk about stages of child development as infantile massage. So we give the father a complete notion of what it is to be a dad and how important it is to be a dad and the purpose of being a dad is.
That's great. So any of you out there who knows somebody or is interested in this program, again, you can always call 210-212-2559, or again, email dcgarcia at chshel.org. And Guillermo, thank you so much for your time. We will be back next week with another session. And again, today's session was just one of the many topics that do get that are part of our program, of your Compadre program. And is there any last words that you want to share with our viewers and our community out
Yes,
there?
I would like to leave this thought right here. It says, this is one of the most difficult challenges of any parent could face, being co-parenting, but it's learning to respect the other parent enough to make the child and their children's first.
That's great. Great closing words. Great closing words.
There
Well,
is hope.
Guillermo, I really appreciate your knowledge and I appreciate the work that you do in the community. And thanks for being part of the Children's Shelter Compadre Family Strengthening Program. We're grateful to have you. And for those of you out there, again, we will be back next Thursday for another Fatherhood Series session. And
I look
until
forward to
then,
it.
yeah, and you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Guillermo, have a wonderful evening, and we will see you guys out there very, very soon.
Thank you.